So you may be asking, what is the RPD challenge? The RPD challenge... Ugh, my fucking voice right now is not helping. Frick it, we're keeping it in post. The challenge was, I went through every killer in the game with the same build, just aura read. The build was Tinkerer, Distortion, what am I talking about? Discordance, Darkness Reveals, Lethal Pursuer. No gen slowing down, just information. I usually didn't run good add-ons, unless the killer was more or less required to run them. For example, I am not playing Trapper without Trapper Bag. It is very nice. So, the issue... so let's start with the positive, and then we'll move to more of the negative aspects of the of what I learned from the challenge. First off, the positives. The positives was the RPD rework was the best rework I think the game has ever seen. Because the map will give behavior. You know, people give behavior a lot of shit. The RPD remake was the best remake I think this game's ever seen. Because it looked like they went through every loop in the game and balanced it. Like, every loop that was complained about, every god palette in the loop, was more or less moved. It was balanced. So, for a quick example, every palette where it was like, drop it, absolutely no counterplay, has been basically completely removed. There is one palette that is like that. And that's it. There's one palette. The other ones was the loops that were really strong. For example, the main police room, where it had the really long wall into the vault, was completely balanced. Was completely rebalanced. They made a hole in the wall, so now you can't just brainlessly vault the window because there's now the hole in the wall. They've added a lot of palettes that are, if you can use them effectively, are really good. If you can't use them effectively, you're gonna get hit really quick. Which is good. How the game kinda should be. The other ones was they also took loops that essentially had no point in the previous build and gave them a point. For example, there was one in the room that has like the Welcome Leon sign in it. There was a room in the original RPD right off to the side, right off to the left side, that essentially had no point. It was pretty much a death sentence when you go into this room. They now gave them a point because if you go out the window, you can now go into the new area. Also, they reworked in the sense of some of it they balanced because some of it feels like they like cut the map in half sometimes, where they basically just blocked off a good portion of the map on some occasions, which is good. Much as I said, I think the RPD remake was done very well. Now I want to talk about the negativity of what I learned from this challenge. Without gen slowdowns, the gens were really fast. The longest game I had was like 12 minutes, and the shortest one I had was 6 minutes and 53 seconds. So very fast games. And I learned the reason of that. Not because the survivors were bringing in 4 toolboxes, hyper-focus, stuff like that. Surprisingly enough, I barely saw toolboxes. I barely saw hyper-focus, and I barely saw stakeout. Shocking as that may seem. What I saw instead was I learned why this is the case. So, because I have Leave It So I'll put a scenario. I'm playing I spawn in, I see one survivor on one gen, one survivor on another gen, and 2 survivors on one generator. So, I chased the 2 people, I I throw a yellow ball, and I go chase the 2 people that are on 1 gen. So I chase, let's say, Dwight runs away and I chase Kate. I have a 30-second chase with Kate, where I get my first hit in 15 seconds, and my another hit in another 15 seconds. And now let's throw an arbitrary number of, I spend 6 seconds putting her in hook, and then I spend another 4 seconds kicking the gen they were working with. What this means is now on those 2 other gens, that is 40 extra seconds. There's now, those gens are basically half done. Keep in mind, that is with a 30-second chase. Now let's say I have a minute chase. Those 2 gens are now pretty close. They are 30 seconds from being done. And that's with having 2 people on 1 gen. If all 4 survivors are separated, that is possibly 60 seconds of progress on 3 different generators. You know, people are like, oh man, I lost 3 gens with my first chase. Because that's just how DVD is. With Legion of Missouri, it seems like, the survivors spawn separated. So that's kind of the issue with that whole thing is, gens were going really fast. And the issue is, with gens going quickly, it turned very quickly into, you got a camp, tunnel, slug, proxy, like you gotta do that very early on. And I also want to talk about the couple changes, but first off, let's continue on with this argument. If you see a weak link, you gotta get that weak link out as soon as possible. And it just basically moves along. Let's say 2 gens are done, and I am able to camp somebody till second stage and then tunnel them out of the game. I basically gotta do that again, and then again, baby. I gotta do that again because there's gens are just way too fast. Because not because like the gens were actually really fast. Because what you learn with a lot of killers in this game, they basically have very little pressure on other survivors. To put in perspective, I'm playing Clown and I'm chasing somebody. Every other survivor essentially has nothing to do. So what they do is they just stick on gens. So the issue is, until that person basically gets chased off the gen, there is basically no pressure on that survivor. So what happens when a survivor has no pressure? They sit on a generator. That's why I had more success with killers that put extra pressure on the team. For example, Legion, Wesker. I had more pressure with those 2 because they have alternative powers that basically put a little pressure on the team. Not a ton, but they give something. Now I want to talk about like the other issue that I learned is that with the rework to DS, tunneling is very, very profitable now. For the reason of, 1, DS essentially means almost nothing. Like a 3 seconds of essentially almost like a pallet stun is not much. And off the record, it sounds like Off the Record was supposed to stop tunneling. Here's the issue that I learned very early on. That little BT thing essentially means nothing. Because the strategy with hard tunneling somebody straight off hook, is as soon as they are able to be hit, you hit them. So let's say somebody's on hook, you wait until that person is basically fully on the ground, and then you hit them. The issue is in that scenario, Off the Record essentially did nothing. Because I hit them as soon as possible, Off the Record essentially did nothing. So now I can tell that person fully free because I don't have to worry about DS. Even if I get a DS, it's like, okay, I ate a DS. Alright, I'm just gonna chase that person immediately again. So as shocking as it may be, tunneling is completely profitable now because it's so... Tunneling right now is very weak. It's very strong because there's nothing to really counter it. Unless, I will say, people are gonna look at this video, look at what I'm saying and be like, oh, this guy's just a salty survivor man. For example, where it really fails is the Legion match. You tunnel the wrong person, and it costs you the game. There's a lot of those games where it's like, if you tunnel the wrong person, it costs you very dearly. If you tunnel the right person, though, it is almost game over. Now I want to talk about like the change that behavior made with the whole kicking mechanic, in the idea of you get the 3%. I'm gonna be honest here, it was irrelevant. There was nowhere where that 3% regression mattered in the literal slightest. It didn't matter. That little 3% is very useless. So in turn, what I learned from this challenge is if behavior was to rework maps, they should rework it like RPD. And they need to somehow fix the fact that tunneling, camping, slugging, and proxy camping are still just as viable, if not more viable, than before. Anyway, remember to like, comment, and subscribe to the notification bell down below. You know if I'm going to upload a new video. Peace out.